Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, Alvin and I will be going over our and giving our bipartisan takes on what we think the best case scenario is for Republicans in the Senate going into the 2026 elections.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we haven't been on the channel for a few weeks now because of some things in our lives, getting sick, etc. But we're back. We should have a good amount of videos for you guys in the future here. And so, yeah, we're going to be taking a look at 2026 best case scenario for Republicans in the Senate. We've already marked out some states that could technically be competitive, such as Alaska and Florida here for the Republicans, as we think those are pretty much an afterthought for Republicans in their best case scenario. And we're going to be adding a few more to that list straight away. And we're going to be going ahead and marking Iowa and Ohio here in the Midwest straight away, putting Republicans already at controlling the chamber here. We
Yes.
think this is pretty obvious considering how much these states have veered to the right on a national level. And we think this is simply going to continue in a best case as well. In Ohio, Democrats don't land their top recruits here in, either Sherrod Brown or I guess also Tim Ryan here. They would get someone weaker, and Republicans probably just continue running John Husted or someone else that's equally as strong, and they get it done. And in Iowa, the Democrats could honestly simply just be in shambles here with
Yeah.
no clear front runner and Joni Ernst still declaring as the incumbent.
Yeah, I think in a best case for Republicans, we're looking at like in what's going to be like an opposition sort of focused year, with opposition parties typically doing better in midterms. I do think best case for Republicans looks at about like maybe like about an even year, maybe it's still D+1, but yeah, generally. Yeah, like in reddish states that Trump pretty handily won in 2024, like Iowa and Ohio, you can expect incumbent Republican senators like easily holding their seats in this best case scenario here. Especially if if Democrats aren't getting even like decent candidates in Ohio or Iowa, then yeah, like John Husted and Joni Ernst are both going to wipe the floor with them in a best case scenario. Yes.
Okay, I mean, now I guess we can also talk about some other things that are sort of on the border of safe. Maybe just go to Texas here.
Yeah.
All right, you can go ahead on this.
I mean, Texas, okay, I think best case scenario, Republicans, of course, keep their incumbent John Cornyn. There's some whispers of a potential primary challenge to his right by Ken Paxton. But yeah, in a best case Republican, I think they'll keep the more moderate figure, that being John Cornyn, the incumbent, of course. He'll keep that incumbency advantage going into the general. Yeah, the best case here would just be the Democrats would simply fail to run. Um, a high quality candidate, something that they did in 2020, I believe, where when they ran MJ Heger against John Cornyn. He won by 9 points in that scenario. So I reckon in the best case, yeah, this would also be kind of along the borderline in a best case for Republicans. I guess I would say in a best case, hmm, I don't know. I could honestly go either way here on solid or likely. Actually, we'll probably give it to the solid category here because yeah, we'll just take the
Yeah,
better of the two.
I would
But
go
yeah,
solid, honestly. I mean, in 2020 it was a pretty decent Dem year. Um, and Texas did sort of turn a corner in 2024, moving back to R+14. So if Republicans just don't leak 4 points here and keep their incumbent, who could honestly even outperform Trump in the same year, there we go. Okay, so now there's quite a few states we can go to, and most of them here that we could go to next are likely Democrat states.
hmm
And I guess we can start with the state of New Jersey,
yeah,
which I think is probably next in the chopping block. Now, as most people following this channel will know, New Jersey was kind of a shocker actually very much of a shocker in 2024. Our home state didn't even vote for Kamala Harris by 6 points here, just under 6 points for Harris. And so if trends continue, especially in these Hispanic areas, in a lot of these high minority areas near New York City, if trends continue into 2026, this could sort of offset any gains that Democrats will traditionally have in the midterms, as backlash to Trump. And if that's the case, then, even though Democrats have a pretty strong incumbent there in Cory Booker, and Republicans sort of don't know who they're running yet, because they're sort of competing over the
Yeah.
governor's election that's more sort of coming this year in 2025. But likely D seems fine if
Yeah.
Republicans get a good recruit.
And also, yeah, it does depend. Like if we see those like anything like those massive shifts we saw between 2020 and 2024, then yeah, New Jersey could definitely move into a closer sort of category here. So yeah, it does hinge on a lot. It would hinge on those shifts continuing and Republicans picking a good candidate. But yeah, it's definitely in the range of possibilities. So I think I agree with that characterization in a best case for Republicans. Um, Next, where should we go? Maybe New Mexico. Um, so in the state of New Mexico, incumbent Ben Ray Lujan is going to be, I believe he's going to be running. Actually, I'm not sure if he's announced, but it is likely that incumbent Democrat is going to be running for re-election. I think he's a first-term senator. So, um, oh, okay, maybe he's not a first-term senator.
No,
Oh
he
no,
is.
he
These
is.
are
He is.
rep.
He is.
These are
Okay, yes,
rep
I see. I see. I see.
elections. Yeah.
So yeah, like I definitely could see this being closest, especially because he was in the likely category in terms of his win in 2020. He won by less than 10 points then. Um, so yeah, I definitely could see in a best case for Republicans, um, you know, it something like that reoccurring in what would be a bluish sort of year uh in 2026. But yeah, it definitely does depend on the Republicans' run. They don't have much of a bench in New Mexico. Mark Ronchetti could try running again. He's probably one of the better known Republicans in the state, but he's lost like two or three times already. So yeah, I mean, it does depend on who the Republicans run here. But yeah, I think in a best case for the Republican Party, they could definitely get it to a single digit loss. But yeah, I think the Dems are still favored.
Yeah, I don't think we can move it any further down than likely D here. I mean, I suppose it's possible to move this into lean D in like an extremely good year, but we'd have to see something um sort of exceptional in terms of recruits for the Republicans, or if, you know, Lujan decides to step down or something to move this, I think, further, at least for now.
Hmm.
And yeah, that makes sense to me. And I guess now we can probably go to Minnesota, which would make sense for me.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, the Tina Smith election is interesting, but what makes this election sort of more interesting than some of the other ones that are in the area is that there's some let me go to electoral history here. But there's interesting people that could technically run if Tina Smith decides not to run. And she didn't have an exceptional performance in 2020. Um, I think this is an underperformance actually of Biden in the state, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. And so, yeah, I mean, technically, it's definitely possible that. Um, oh, actually, she's
Yeah,
not
she's
going to
not
be
even
seated.
running. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like all these other people that could succeed or could definitely make the race more interesting and make the race worse for um Democrats here.
Yeah, I would say like the worst candidate Democrats could nominate is Ilhan Omar in the state. Obviously, she's a massive underperformer. I don't think she has any shot of winning a primary though, like at all. Just because like, House member with a very like niche group of support, she barely wins her own primaries in her district. So I reckon it's like in all likelihood it's either going to be Peggy Flanagan, the lieutenant governor of the state, or Angie Craig, one of the swing district representatives in Minnesota, who's going to be the Dem nominee. Republicans, I'm not really sure who they nominate. That guy Royce White, who was very controversial and ran for Senate in 2024. I forgot why. I think it's because he used campaign funds at like a strip club or something. Feel free to
That's
fact check me
not
on that.
cool.
But yeah, he got flattened by Klobuchar, of course, in the 2024 election. He's running again. So I mean, it depends if he gets the nomination, if the Republicans let him get the nomination again. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess in an ideal scenario, Republicans would kind of take that nomination away from Royce White. I think they can manage that in a top, what, 5-10% scenario. But I think there's like less than 1% shot Omar wins the primary. So I don't know, probably lean blue, likely blue. I'm probably in between those two. Um,
Yeah, I guess in these sort of cases, we can sort of err towards the better side for the best case side, right?
mhm.
And just put them to lean. But yeah, I mean, we could definitely see. We're probably going to see a pretty good recruit on the Democrat side. On the Republican side, if a statewide rep or something decides to run, maybe things get interesting if Democrats can't get momentum here and there's more movement in the white working class. I don't know, but eh, I even think this might be a bit of a stretch. But for this early edition of the best case, we'll put it in lean D. I kind of think we might be moving that soon,
Mhm.
eventually. Okay, now we're sort of here with Michigan, which I guess maybe we should get to later, and then sort of the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few places to go here, but I think maybe we go to Virginia, maybe the one that's the least sort of competitive
Yeah.
left.
Okay. I think that's fair
I
enough.
think that's probably the case here. And Virginia, I mean, definitely in the best case, this is simple that they will get Glenn Youngkin to run here, which would, of course, be huge because Youngkin's term is up, in 2026 and really later this year, basically. And then he would be free to spend the entire year campaigning against Mark Warner, who's the incumbent. Mark Warner is how many years old?
He's like
Age
70, I
70,
think. Yeah.
he could definitely run again, but in a best case, maybe even he retires for the
Yeah.
Republicans and Glenn Youngkin runs against a fresh face. Glenn Youngkin is a popular governor in the state. He's been governing quite well in the state and also is a very strong campaigner, as we saw in 2021. He's one of the best campaigners that the Republicans honestly have in the entire country. And, that would be a big asset for him. However, I think it's going to be tougher for him in a Trump dominated midterm. And I don't even see him winning in the top 5% scenario just yet, unless
Yeah.
Democrats get a, a miserable candidate or something. Maybe a rematch against Terry McAuliffe. That would be crazy. But other than that, I see this sort of as a lean D. I guess maybe a tilde D, but probably lean D.
Yeah, probably lean D. The only way I see it getting that close is if Warner doesn't run. I think if Warner runs, even in a best case, I think Youngkin is doomed to lose by at least more than 5 points. I could see him losing by like 7 to 8 against Warner. But yeah, like I think in a best case, you need the Dem incumbent who's pretty strong not to run. And yeah, Warner still hasn't announced what Senator Warner still hasn't announced what he's going to do yet. So I mean, yeah. So in a best case for Republicans, I think we could put this close-ish. Um, okay. Next, I would say we could do Maine with Susan
Okay.
Collins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
This is a bit of an interesting one. I mean, okay. I mean, Susan Collins, obviously she's like one of the more moderate Republican senators. Um, and she's proven like she can run tough and win tough races. Like when Biden won the state by 9 points in 2020, she won the state by like a good margin, like I think 7 to 8. I always forget the margin she won by, but yeah.
8.6.
Yeah, she
8.6.
she outran Trump in the state by double digits easily. So yeah, she's a very strong incumbent. Um, and it does heavily like this is one going to be one of the closest races in 2026 for sure. In a best case though, I think Democrats I would imagine Democrats just like making a recruitment failure, not being able to get either Jared Golden or Janet Mills to run against her, and I don't know, just like kind of pushing up a nobody against Susan Collins. That's like the biggest risk, I would say. Because beyond that, I feel like the candidates get weaker if Democrats don't select Golden or Mills. So that also with just Susan Collins, assuming just the split ticket voting for her just holds up. I mean, I could even see her winning by like I don't know, maybe like 5 points or something, like getting a 5 point win of some sort. Like I could potentially see it sticking in likely, maybe. I don't know. Because again, it's still going to be a bluish year. I don't know. I mean, I think either way, she's definitely favored in a best case. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of factors at play here. Of course, you have the recruitment issue that might happen. You also have potentially a contentious primary where both Golden and Mills run, and they sort of go at each other, and then Collins sort of emerges as, "Oh, I'm still a moderate Republican here. I know Washington, and I have good experience. I don't miss votes. She's very famous for that in the Senate."
Hmm.
And she can also say, "Look, I've distanced myself from Trump when necessary. I've called him out when it's necessary." And she can play very well to these sort of Maine voters that are willing to give her chance after chance. Of course, you have that biblical overperformance over the polls and over Trump in
Yep.
2020. So for now, I think likely can be fine. Maybe
Okay.
we move this into lean as we move towards our next best case, maybe like a few months down the road. But for now, yeah, likely
Yeah, it's
for
in the
Susan
realm
Collins
of
is definitely
possibilities.
necessary, definitely possible here.
Okay. Next, I would say New Hampshire. Um, this one I think is interesting. Because it seems like I don't know, like it does seem like at least initially Chris Sununu has ruled out a run. Um, so I mean, just going by that, I think that is a big win for Democrats there, because I mean, yeah, like he's like the only I believe he's like the only Republican in the state who would be able to win this race outside like maybe like Kelly Ayotte, who's the current governor. But with him ruling it out, like I don't know, it does seem like there's a lot of whispers of him potentially still running, but he himself ruled it out like a couple months ago. So, okay, with him out of the picture, best case for Republicans is probably like Jeanne Shaheen, the incumbent Dem senator who's really popular, wouldn't run for reelection. And you just have like two fresh faces essentially running. In that scenario, I think the Democrats are favored. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, probably by like yeah, like a lean or likely margin. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not sure to the extent we want to include Sununu in this because like I'm just thinking back like to our prior videos, we didn't really include the candidates if they declined to run. So I don't know. How do you want to approach this?
Yeah, yeah. Since he has technically declined, I guess we won't include it. Although, yeah, you're right. There have been some whispers. You're right. I mean, New Hampshire is one of the states where Harris did hold decently. I mean, she didn't do as well as Biden, but still the Democrats held the state by +3, despite on the sort of statewide level backing Kelly Ayotte, the Republican governor. I mean, if she runs or if I mean, I guess technically her name she hasn't declined. I mean, she could definitely pivot back to the Senate, which I think she would have a decent shot there. Uh, just looking at how well she did in the governor's race this year, she could definitely have a big shot. But honestly, for now, I think, yeah, we can put this in a lean D, like somewhere in between a Shaheen retirement and a mid Republican losing here with two fresh faces, or also a possibility of, Shaheen just underperforming and her age sort of catching up to our
Mhm.
Republicans getting a good candidate. I mean, Scott Brown's not horrible. He is still losing by 10 in the polls, but, he's still former senator from New England, so he's not the worst person that you can put up. But yeah, I think that's fine for now. And okay, we're now moving into the last three states, which are the sort
Mhm.
of traditional swing states that we've looked at for the past 4 years as the holy grail of winning elections. Here is what matters the most. And I think we should start off with Georgia. I personally think
Okay.
the Republican best case in Georgia is the simplest, and that's of course Brian Kemp. You have a lot of other sort of elections like North Carolina and Michigan, where best case Republicans could mean a lot of things. But in Georgia, It's very simple, and it's a governor recruit, just like sort of in Virginia or New Hampshire, where you have these popular Republican governors that happen all the time. And here, Brian Kemp has shown his resistance to Trump, so he's definitely going to get quite a few independent votes, even if Trump recedes on his approval rating further and further, as we see right now. Brian Kemp can definitely distinguish himself. Uh, from Trump. He also is very well liked by the base anyway. I mean, he's not loved by the base, but they'll definitely turn out and vote for him, as we saw in 2022, regardless, even in a not so good year for Republicans in the state, on the Senate level, on the federal level. And so I think a lot of these people, like, as you can see, they're deciding on running for the Senate race if Kemp doesn't run. I mean, everyone's waiting on Kemp's decision because they know that he is the best shot for Republicans to win here. And you even have, like Tim Scott here.
Yeah.
People are pressuring him to run because they really want him to run. If you look at the hypothetical polling, John Ossoff likely beats, the incumbent senator likely beats everyone else, but probably loses to Kemp in most scenarios. Um, even just as a starting point. And in a best case, I mean, you know, we could put this in lean. I mean, technically, maybe it's less than 5% likely because of a good, yeah, I think lean is fair because
Lean is fair, yeah.
you also have to look at the trends that Georgia's like the one place where Democrats resisted the suburban reversion here. All these other suburbs, suburban reversion happened, but not in Atlanta. And yeah, Ossoff he's still an incumbent senator. He's still
Yes.
there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Kemp is very strong, putting up a very strong 7.5 point win in 2022. I do reckon even in a best case, I reckon he does worse than that just because Ossoff is an incumbent. And is definitely a better candidate than Stacey Abrams for sure. Um, but yeah, like in a best case, I can definitely see him winning by, like 2 to 3 points. Uh, Brian Kemp. So yeah, I think that's a fair characterization. Next, I think we can go to the state of North Carolina. So
Right.
in Carolina, we have who's running for re-election? Tom Tillis, um, running against what's likely. I mean, the Democrats are still kind of deciding on their nominee. It seems like most Dems are trying to push for Roy Cooper, the now former governor of the state, who was quite popular. So yeah, this is definitely going to be another one of the toss-up races. So in a best case, it kind of goes without saying that the Republican would best the Democrat here. So yeah, like I think the best case for Republicans is just simply Tom Tillis running against someone who's not Roy Cooper. So if the Democrats don't nominate Cooper and like maybe like Wiley Nickel or something who is running, um, if they end up running like if the Democrats end up running something weaker, I definitely think yeah, like we can see the Republicans winning by a lean margin here. So like low single digits. So yeah, I think in the best case, Republicans take it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I guess we can also put this in lean. I mean, there's a case for likely here where they just don't recruit Roy Cooper, I guess, and maybe Tom Tillis just wins. I don't know if you want to put it there.
Nah, it wouldn't be
No.
that. I don't think it'd be that red.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen in the past that North Carolina just keeps voting for Republicans regardless on the state level. And maybe the sort of range of possibilities just is smaller here on the state. I mean, maybe it's just going to be between like D+2 and R+3, and that's just, or even D+1 and R+3, and that's just going to be how it is for the entire 2 years, regardless of how good Trump does or how bad Trump does. Just because of the nature of North Carolina, it just seems to sort of be like that. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Tom Tillis is also still seen as a more moderate Republican here. So, we'll see how that goes. I guess we'll finish off in Michigan, where,
Mm.
of course, we also had that big video where, Gary Peters retired, or I guess he didn't retire yet, but he's not going to run again. And that has opened up a massive primary here on the Democratic side where honestly, I could see Pete Buttigieg winning this primary here, which could be worse for Democrats. There are a lot of strong candidates, but with an also open, sort of primary on the governor race, you're sort of seeing these Democrats split up in terms of where they're running and competing for the race or another race. And so, the biggest name here is still Pete Buttigieg. And him winning that primary could be some problems for Democrats. Now, in a good Republican year, they definitely would not pick someone like a Tudor Dixon that did horrendous in
Hmm.
2022. They would pick sort of a U.S. rep like a John James or Bill Huizenga, or even just a generic Republican like Mike Rogers, who came
Yeah.
close in 2024. And all these people in a good year for Republicans, and by good year we mean a slightly Democrat year against a weak Democrat in, like a Pete Buttigieg, for example. If Pete Buttigieg just can't get that carpet bag, uh, you know, tag off of him, lean Republicans on the table.
Yeah, I would agree for the most part. I think there is definitely a scenario where I mean I think it is most likely that the Democratic nominee is going to be Buttigieg. Um, then the only question after that is like, okay, yeah, like how successfully can the Republicans brand him a carpetbagger and like destroy his reputation? Who do the Republicans nominate? Um, but so yeah, like in a situation where they nominate like a generic, pretty solid candidate like Mike Rogers against Buttigieg, and they successfully label him a carpetbagger, and only like it's like only like a slightly blue year, not like a blue wave. Then yeah, like I think Republicans could definitely have a shot at winning the Senate race in Michigan. So yeah, I think yeah we could probably put this lean R.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, also, like, we've talked about this before, but Pete Buttigieg is definitely very articulate. He can definitely swing a primary very easily, especially with audiences that are favorable to him.
Mhm.
But looking at a general, Michigan might be one of the worst states for him to run, being gay, of course, with a strong Muslim population as well in the state. And it's tough to find a state worse for Pete Buttigieg personally. I think out of the swing states for him to run with that, and also with just him having to appeal to the white working class. It's going to be difficult, although, he did do well in Iowa in that primary, and then fell apart with minorities later on in 2020. So maybe Michigan is the state for him. I don't know. We'll have to see. But the polling doesn't look good off the bat. But regardless, looking usually end off with the betting markets here. We still have Republicans here at 82% to win the Senate, which, I'm surprised it hasn't fallen even a tick as Trump's approval rating has fallen. And quite a bit of controversy has occurred on the national level, which I hope we'll get into in the next few videos,
Mm.
whether it be foreign policy or tariffs. There's a lot of controversy here, and Trump's definitely been fading a little in terms of approval, sort of settling into this plus 1.5 for the past few weeks now, but likely to go down further. But still, it looks like the map's way too difficult for Democrats to overcome, and that's why this market won't move at all. And so, in the best case, Republicans net an extra 2 seats here, getting all the way to 55, which would really be something. I think if
Yeah.
Republicans could pull that off, I guess this is sort of their ceiling here. Difficult to see them go further, although technically possible with a few good. Maybe they can win one of the three here in Lean D in a really, really good year, like maybe Sununu grab, maybe 56 is on the table, but already 55 would be crazy. So, yeah, any last words?
I mean, yeah, just like one last note, I think definitely like comparing this to our best case Democratic video, which you guys should definitely go check out. It seems like the Republicans most definitely have a higher ceiling, a higher potential ceiling than the Democrats, even though we expect it to be a bluer sort of year, like a even dare I say, potentially a blue wave year. It seems like
Don't
if
jinx yourself.
I know, but like, it seems like again, like 55 Senate seats is nothing to sneeze at. That's a lot. So, I mean, there's a shot. Yeah, there is a shot here that, the Republicans have a way higher potential for seat gain here than I think the Democrats have. But yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Leave a like on this video down below if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel down below, as we will be really trying to get more content out for you guys. Luke's on spring break, so you already know. Comment down below any future ideas for our videos. And thanks for watching. Share this video with your family and friends.
See you guys.